Hello, I am Takia Gaither of the Commission Teacher Consultant, and I'm here to talk to you today about the power of editing and formatting. So, as you are sitting in your high school English and language arts classes right now, my love for editing and formatting actually started while I was in my high school junior English class. At the time, I was preparing to go to college to be an engineer. And my junior English teacher would have us do activities where you had to trade papers with a partner and proofread their term paper, whatever assignment we were working on, and give feedback. Well, one of the things that she noticed about my papers is that I would have all kinds of colors and scratch outs and things in the margin as I edited my own work as I was going along. And then when I partnered with someone else, I would do the same thing for them. And so one day after we had done this activity about, two or three times during the school year, she said, if you ever decide to not be an engineer, I think you have a very good career ahead of you in editing. And so some years later, I decided to start a editing and book formatting business because at the time, Amazon Publishing just lets you publish a book however it was. What I didn't realize is that in self-publishing, many people often skip steps. And that's why we're here today to talk about the importance of not skipping those steps. So I don't know about you, but maybe you've looked at a piece on Amazon or a book or a blog or something that somebody's written and you see words that are misspelled, you see things that are out of place, you see ideas that were just way too wordy to be on the page. And your thought might have been, wow, did they even read this before they posted it? Or not even as big as a blog or a book, just a social media post, a long form social media post, because we know some people like to use their platforms to do long form writing. But even in that long form writing, there's a certain level of polish that should always come with that. And so the job of your first draft of anything that you write is just to get the idea out of your head, get it from your head and on paper if you still write by hand, or onto the screen if you can just go from what you're thinking to what you're typing. Once you get that finished, now it's your job to get it to an editor. And so 94% of readers trust your writing, of a reader's trust of your writing, is built on details, or it can be lost in those same details. So your clarity, your structure, your correctness, the way it looks on the page, all of those things help solidify that your message can be received to the person who's reading it. So when you look at those things with the typos and all of those things in it, more times than not, you actually begin to focus more on the typos on the screen or the words that are spelled wrong and on all of those things before you can even get to the message of what anybody is saying. And so the reason why your book should go to an editor, even though self-publishing does allow you to skip steps, at Chosen Pen and then the Chosen Pen group, we don't think you should ever skip a step because it's important that your writing is edited because it sends your best foot forward. And so before you even get it through to the editor, there are some things you can do on your own. So once you get it written, you can look at it and revise it. Does it say what you want it to say? Is there anything missing, out of order, or unnecessary? And if those are things that you find to be too heavy for you to deal with, when you find an editor to work with, let them know, hey, I see the big picture of what I want to say, but I think I have some things out of order. I'm just not really sure how this looks. And the editor will be able to do that work for you and help you put those things in order and put your thoughts together and sequence them in a way that is easy for someone else to understand, but it also conveys the message that you exactly wanted to say. Then comes actual editing. This is where we look up, we fix word choices. We make sure that all of your sentences go together. We make sure the ideas in the paragraph go together, that you haven't started talking about Hot Wheels cars at the beginning of the paragraph, but ended on dinosaurs at the end of the paragraph, and there's nothing in the middle that connects those two thoughts. Those are things that editors look for when they're reading through your book. They want to go through the chapters and make sure that your stories and the things that you're writing about have a clear sequence of events. And then the final thing that happens is that it goes through a proofreading round. And so proofreading comes after your book has already been formatted. So in most high schools, Many schools now use MLA formatting, so that means your paper has to look a certain way on screen. Some may use Chicago. When you get to college, you'll see what's known as APA writing, but those are formalized writing styles that say your paper should look a certain type of way before you can turn it in for whatever it is you're turning it in for. And generally, if you stick to one of those three styles, those are things that are also accepted when you want to write for magazines, when you're doing blogs, when you're doing books and journals and all of those things. If you use those types of formatting, generally, everything that you write will actually pass through whatever scope or thing it is that they're reading and they're looking for. But when you proofread, you're looking for things that happen when you make those shifts. So in between moving my paragraphs or tightening them up, did I accidentally hit a key? And now there's a random A that doesn't go with any sentence in the book. Did I click a number by mistake in the space that there is no numbers? Did something just end up weirdly on a different line and it should have? Proofreading is also where you find out those little things that sometimes slip through the crack. Example I like to use is that I edited a book for a friend who was an English major in college. In her book, both of us managed to miss the word for, F-O-R, for the number four, F-O-U-R. Reason being, because I had worked so extensively with her work and the number four actually fit into the sentence she was writing, none of the grammar checkers or anything else picked it up. On her side, because she was so familiar with her work and she knew what she wanted to say, she also missed it because both of us looked at it and saw the same thing. We saw FOR, which is the version that we wanted there. However, after the book came out in print, we found that one error. And editing does not escape you from having mistakes or things in your book. It should, however, though, lessen the amount of them that you have. So if someone gives you back a work and they say it's edited and it's still full of mistakes, it hasn't been edited. A well edited piece of work will have very little to no errors in it. Like I said, there's always a little thing here or there that could be better. There's a sentence that comes out some type of way that was okay at the time, but maybe could have been written a little differently. But more times than not, the amount of errors that you see in a piece should be extremely, extremely limited to the point where there are almost none. And because I am actually a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that, I actually strive for no errors, despite the fact that yes, more times than not, there will always be one. It is actually my goal and my level of excellence and my standard of excellence to make sure that your book has none, because your book has the opportunity to go places in the world that you'll never go. And so you can write a book in your state, wherever you live, and that book can travel to the other side of the country. That book may also travel to other places in the world. Recently, a few years ago, I worked with Chosen Pen on a project and it took us to South Africa. But the reason I was afforded the ability to go there is because I had done work around forgiveness and self-forgiveness. And so we were able to leave versions and copies of those books in South Africa where we were. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. Will I ever get back to South Africa? Maybe, who knows? But in the meantime, my work is there and it has gone places and has sold in countries that I may not ever get to visit. So your book is like your calling card. And so formatting, just to be a little bit clearer about what that is it takes your brilliantly messy idea and it turns it into something that makes it easy for everybody else to read. So if you think about it, all of those times when your teacher may tell you about run-on sentences, about using shifting word tenses when you're in sentences. Like sometimes I know that it's very easy to, and I used to do it all the time when I was in high school. Like my teacher would get me every single time. I would easily switch from first person writing to third person writing and then back to first person writing. And so what that does is it confuses your reader about whose point of view they're writing from. If it begins from a first person space where it's I, me, we, us, and those types of things, and then all of a sudden it switches to they, him, her, he, she, um, all of those things, sometimes it can get a little confusing. A lot of people may or may not notice it, but those who are avid readers usually pick up on those things because those are the things that an editor looks for to make sure that that shift doesn't happen. And so when you're going from paragraph to paragraphs, you want to make sure that your paragraph breaks are clean. If you have specific formatting for like section headings and things of that nature, that those are in place, that they all match, that you don't have five different types of fonts happening in your work. If you are quoting from books such as the Bible or other biblical texts and things of that nature, and you're doing like chapter and verse from those books, you want to make sure that it's consistent. So using the Bible as an example, there are variations of the Bible. You have the King James Version, the NIV, the NLT, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if the author doesn't tell you what version of the Bible that they're using, sometimes that version changes a little bit of the wording for the actual scripture. And so you want to be clear on what version of the Bible they're quoting from, just as if you use something such as Sun Tzu's The Art of War. There are different versions of that book printed as well that do the same thing. The goal of the formatter is to make sure that all of those things are included so that they are properly included on your copyright page and that they match the whole way through. And so your editor and formatter a lot of times can be the same person. They may or may not be. Some editors like to do both. Many do not. Some just specialize in editing, proofreading, and developmental editing, which is making sure you're writing, they're working with you while you're actually writing. And then formatters go back in and clean up all the other things. In my case, I do both because I've been trained to do both as a classroom teacher. So one of the things that I would always help my students with was not only the writing process and the editing process of their work, but I would also teach them how to properly format it as well. And so in teaching them how to properly format it, that became a skill that I turned into a business that I could then do for other people. So some things to go through your own editing checklist and things to make sure that you're going through as you're reading and writing before you submit your manuscript for publishing. Read it out loud. If something catches your watch what catches your ear and watch what your eye skips over. So that's usually where you can find those things like the 4 and 4 mistake that we made earlier. However, just as a caveat, doesn't always catch it because I'm pretty sure both of us read that same passage out loud and we still missed it. But on to number 2, you want to cut anything that repeats itself. If you already said it, say it that one time and move on. Every once in a while, it becomes okay to say things in a different way. However, what you don't want to do is have a chapter that says the same thing 5 different ways because it becomes redundant and then it begins to play on almost the intelligence of your reader. Number 3, check your formatting matches the assignment. Make sure your fonts are the same, your spacing, your title headings, anything that was asked for, make sure you have included those things in your work. And then lastly, get a second pair of eyes. Have a peer reader, your teacher may offer office hours or coach class. Have a family member look over it and have them sit with the requirements of what it is that you've written because they'll be able to catch things that you can't. And so when you're doing this for the purposes of writing a book, your editor becomes your second set of eyes. And so you can still have a person see it before it actually gets sent to the formal editor. And so editing and formatting are not extra steps. They are what turns your writing into something that someone else can trust. And so if you remember that all throughout where you're writing and whenever you're writing, that piece of advice will take you far. Every published author has started with a messy first draft. The difference between a good book and just a book is the editing. Hope this helps you. Happy writing to you and have a great day.